and good evening, baseball fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We've got Alden K and Mike Patt here tonight, and we'll be taking a deep look across the baseball landscape. We're starting with some of our headlines. Of course, we've got the unfortunate injury to Corbin Burns. I'm sure Alden will have more than enough to say about that one, being a Diamondbacks fan. We also have Mike Trout and Bryce Harper returning from injuries with a bang, with literally in Bryce Harper's case. So we're going to talk about some of the positive side of that and the unfortunate dark side of sports in general with Lance McCullers and the threats he received this past week. We're going to talk about that situation. Also, of course, it's Tuesday night. Pretty much every team is playing tonight, so we're going to get a live score update. A couple of games have gone final, including one result that has one particular fan base very excited, we know. We're going to, of course, take a look at our who's hot and who's not from this past week. Several teams kind of fitting into both categories. We're going to take a look at who had a really good week, who maybe didn't, and, of course, our upcoming series to watch for the weekend ahead of us, and the minor league highlight as well. A couple of really big moves, some big movement in the minor leagues with a couple of hot prospects. And then, of course, there's the college. Of course, we have the College Softball World Series final has been set. Two teams from the state, including one of our picks. We're going to talk about that matchup, and the college baseball tournament has reached their super regionals. We're going to talk about some of the results from the regionals, some of the surprises, and the matchups ahead. And then, of course, we have our Around the Diamond segment where we're just going to talk about whatever's hot and heavy on our mind. Once again, Alden K is here and Mike Patt is here for the Bullpen Bulletin. Let's get to it.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
And welcome back to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, Alden K and Mike Patt coming to you tonight. I hope you guys are having a great and baseball-filled evening wherever you are. Let's get right to it with our headlines from this past week, and we're going to start with one that is still, I think, making Alden a little bit sad right in this moment as we talk. This past Sunday, I believe it was Sunday, Corbin Burns, starting pitcher ace for the Arizona Diamondbacks staff, was pitching against the Washington Nationals and pitching a pretty darn good game, by the way, when he suffered an elbow injury, an apparent elbow injury in the fifth inning, right before after a base hit by C.J. Abrams. Corbin could be seen on replay. Lip readers have noted that he said something to the effect is, "My elbow is dead. I am done." So he was immediately removed from the game. He has been placed on the 15-day injured list with elbow inflammation is the current diagnosis. Alden, take it away on this one. First of all, what are your thoughts on the injury? Is elbow inflammation, does that seem right based on what we saw? And what does this mean for the Diamondbacks?
So I think that, per usual, the general manager, the manager, whoever the heck is making the calls here, I think they're kind of under exaggerating this news right here. Because in my opinion, watching baseball for a little bit, for quite a while now, I don't think if it was elbow inflammation, he would have literally yelled an F-bomb as soon as he threw the pitch, and then immediately, like in a hurry up kind of way, tell the trainer to come out, and then he said his elbow was finished, and he basically said he was done. So I'm kind of on the side where I think it is kind of similar to what Garrett Cole went through last year, where he messed up his elbow, and he managed to play all the way up until the World Series, and then just recently in spring training, they found out his elbow was actually a lot worse, and he was going to have to undergo Tommy John surgery. That is what I think is kind of similar to the Corbin Burns injury. I think that with the season that the Diamondbacks have had so far, 3 games below 500, being in a tough division, and not really living up to expectations this season, and with the pitching not living up to expectations at all this year, I think that the trainers and Torey Lovello, I think they're trying to make Corbin Burns play through this as much as they can, just in order to try to save the season, because the season is not going well so far. I didn't think almost 60 games into the season they'd be below 500 at this point, but with the outcomes that they've had this year. But back to the injury, though, I don't think it's elbow inflammation. I think that if a professional pitcher says his elbow is done, now maybe he could have exaggerated it a little bit. Maybe he could have said his elbow was done at least for that game only, and then he would be good to go in the future. But there is a chance he could have over exaggerated that a little bit. But just the way he reacted to it, and it was as soon as he threw the pitch too. And I don't think a professional pitcher would say his elbow is done if it was just inflammation. I've seen a lot of our pitchers on this team have been injured this season to start off the year, and a couple of them were because of elbow inflammation. One of them was Kevin Ginkel in spring training, and then the other one was Justin Martinez, who recently just came back. They never showed signs of extreme pain as soon as they pitched the ball, and they didn't wave the trainer to come out or anything like that. It was something that they found out days later. So for his elbow to mess up like that right away, I think inflammation is a little bit of a understatement on this injury, and I think that it could be a lot worse than what the Diamondbacks are reporting it to be.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with that assessment. As we were talking about before we went live, it kind of reminded me of Felix Bautista when he suffered his injury late 2023. And what reminded me is that instant reaction. It wasn't like a wince or a discomfort. It was an instant like, hey, there's a problem. Come out here, trainers. I need to talk to somebody. It did not look great. And yeah, I think it's going to depend on how long is he actually going to be out? We've seen guys go on the 15-day injured list. They get transferred to the 60-day injured list. The trade deadline's only 50 games away at this point. So, any decisions that teams are going to make on their season, especially decisions for players like Burns's caliber, not only being the great pitcher that he is, but also being the biggest contract on the roster, which of course the financials have to come into play, is that you don't just have this guy for this year. You have him for 5 more years beyond that, unless of course he exercises his player option and decides to leave elsewhere, which I believe he gets after year 3, I believe is somewhere after year 2 in the case. So there's the financial component, like, yeah, okay, you can try to push this guy back into play, or you can realize that you have him potentially for 5 more seasons and, count this year, and again, and part of it might depend on what happens with the Diamondbacks in the next 2 weeks. I think if they show some competitiveness, maybe they battle back to 500 in the next couple of weeks and they're like, okay, maybe we do want to make a run, or they slide a little bit. Now they're 5 or 6 games under 500. They're currently, I believe, taking a quick look at it. It looks like they're 4.5 games back, 5 games back from the wild card. So maybe that gap grows to 7 or 8 games in the next few weeks. And you start to think to yourself, okay, well, maybe let's not push it. And I did do a quick look. They do have a couple of veterans on 1-year deals who, if they wanted to trade and start to do a little retooling here in this slight down year, that maybe that might not be the worst strategy in the world. I mean, are fans going to be mad about it? Yeah, but if it's a smart strategy and you come back better next year, hey, how's it gonna, who's to say it was a bad move? Ralph Kalish jumping in the chat room. Good evening, sir. And of course, Ralph always with the thought-provoking questions. He always asks the best ones on here. Clearing up what the new rule is for playing shifts. Seems like he said he's seen all different kinds of shifts lately. Now, to my knowledge, and Alden, I don't know if you know more or not, I believe when they changed the shift rule a few years back, they said you couldn't have an unbalanced infield. You had to have 2 infielders on both sides of both left and right sides. Now, were teams able to find slight loopholes, moving the shortstop closer to second base, like almost right behind it? Maybe yes, but to my knowledge, that was the only extent of the shift rule.
Yeah, that's how I seem to remember it. Occasionally they are unbalanced and then they move around the field, this and that, depending on the hitter, of course, and just where the other teammates are at. But that's I always have seen shifts like that. I didn't really dive into detail too much on when they changed it or if they changed it lately or anything like that. But that's how I remember it. Just occasionally, depending on the hitter specifically, they move around, especially the shortstop, the second baseman occasionally, and then the third baseman moving closer to the line, moving up a little bit. So, but that's how I remember it.
Gotcha. And it looks like, just doing a quick check, and it does look like they did do maybe a minor shift rule right before the season started in January. Let's see. Teams have no more than 2 defenders on either side of second base. In addition, each infielder must be standing on the infield, so nobody can be in the shallow outfield as part of the rule as well. Yeah. So, but are there ways, if you can picture an MLB diamond, are there ways to get creative and try to work on that and still try to get in an advantage? I'm sure. But that, to our knowledge, Ralph, that's all that we've seen. So if teams are getting creative with it, hey, everybody's going to try to get creative with things. That's how we ended up with the torpedo bat. So, for sure. All right, moving on to our next topic, much more positive topic. We had the kind of down topic with the Burns injury. Now we are going to talk about some guys coming back from injuries, and 2 really big name players, 2 of the biggest names in the whole sport. Mike Trout and Bryce Harper. Trout returned from a month-long injury stint, which seems to be the going norm for him these days. And Harper, of course, returning from being clunked in the elbow last week. Harper, in his first game back tonight, hit a home run in the first inning, very first at bat. So he's back in swing and full. And Trout, in 4 games since his return, 8 and 14 with a home run, a double, and 5 RBI. That's a pretty good 4-game stretch. There's a handful of Orioles that I would like to have that 4-game stretch for sure. But Alden, what is this? This is great for baseball, right? To see these two guys back and playing at full steam.
Yeah, it's great. Unfortunately, Bryce Harper just took an unfortunate pitch to the elbow, and that's the only reason he was out. So it's
Mhm.
good to see him back. The Phillies, there was a point where they lost 4 games in a row. So with him back, they're winning 7-1 last time I checked against Toronto. And Toronto was actually on a win streak of their own. They won 5 in a row. So the Phillies ended their win streak. So I guess with Bryce Harper back, it can give the Phillies just another good batter to keep their possession of first place in the East a little bit. Or I believe they're actually in second now because the Mets, when
Yes.
they beat the
Yep.
Dodgers the other day, they took over. So now that they have their best player back, we'll see if they can get back into first place because the Mets have also been rolling lately. So we'll see if the Phillies can respond. As far as Mike Trout, though, I feel like I see this headline every single year. That's yeah, when he plays, he can play good, but that's the issue. He doesn't play because he's injured all the time. So that that's always I feel like the biggest headline with the Angels that I see year in and year out is that their best player is always dealing with some kind of injury, and there's always this one stat where Mike Trout has missed this many games and this and that. So it's good to see him back and he's playing good. When he is playing, he can play really good baseball, and it's unfortunate that the Angels are not having another good season for his sake. But when he does play, he can easily make the Angels competitive team. So it's good to see him playing good. But let's hope he can stay healthy to a certain degree.
Absolutely. I mean, we got to remember about Trout. He had one of the best stretches in baseball history offensively from 2012 to 2019. He posted a higher WAR in that stretch than many Hall of Famers had for their entire career. So, this man dominated the 2010s. And like you said, I just hope he can find a way to stay healthy for long periods of time so we can see just a little bit more of Mike Trout. Amazing stat, by the way. I just learned this. He's either the same age or only 1 year older than Aaron Judge. That's incredible because he feels
Yeah,
like he's been around for forever. And Judge, I mean, Judge has been around for a while, but his big relevance has been in the last 5 years or so. So that's just a funny reference. Of course, Trout did start at like 19 or
I
20, I
think
believe. He
Judge
got
got
called up or something like
drafted.
that.
I think Judge got drafted a couple years later too.
Yeah, I think he got drafted a little later. He was a little older, lots of different components. He didn't make it to the league. Judge didn't until he was 25 or 26 either. So, it was a little bit of a later start there. And next up on our list, unfortunately, we've got the dark side of sports. This is something we don't like to talk about, but it's always present for a lot of these athletes. So, Houston pitcher Lance McCullers, following a poor start against the Cincinnati Reds on May 10th. Actually, and it wasn't even McCullers straight directly. It was actually his children. This is according to the AP. Received threats from a mysterious anonymous party on social media. That party was later discovered through a police search as a drunken overseas sports gambler who I guess had laid money on the game and lost. Um, it's one of those things, and the team actually, so good on the Astros for doing this, actually hired 24-hour security for the McCullers family while this whole situation was being sorted out. So good move there by the Astros. But it's one of those things. You know, we're all sports fans. Alden, you and I are diehards. Never once in my entire sports fandom have I ever thought about saying a threat to a player or saying something just completely out of character or turn to a player's family. That part to me is particularly offline. But it's one of those dark sides of sports. People take it way too seriously, especially when it comes to the gambling side. Once money's involved, people just seem to absolutely lose their minds. And it's unfortunate. It's a side effect. I wish I could make it stop, like Thanos snap away this stupidity, but Unfortunately, I do not have the Infinity Gauntlet, nor would I be able to probably wield it. Anyways, but Alden, what are your thoughts on this? Like this is just stupid, right? This is terrible.
I only needed to look at 2 words, and that was drunken and gambler. Like
Hmm.
those are the only 2 words I really needed to look at to get my thoughts into it. It's just one of those stupid situations where, players have a bad game. There's always that one bettor, which even though it's not really the player's fault that they're betting on them, because players have
Hmm.
bad games, they're not going to be perfect. And no offense to McCullers himself, but I don't know why anyone would bet on him. That's just me though. But yeah, it's kind of a stupid, and the drunk thing, that's not really a good excuse for it. He made, or whoever made the bet, their own doing. McCullers had a bad game. It is what it is. When you bet money, you're going to lose it sometimes. If you don't want to lose money, then just don't bet at all. I don't understand why I don't understand why people who gamble or do these bets, this and that, they always think that it's the player's fault when they don't get their own way. But we've seen it year in and year out. It's obviously messed up, and yeah, credit the Astros for giving him security just to be safe about it and just to make sure nothing bad happened or nothing bad escalated into the situation. But yeah, for that person to not go after him either, but his family as well. So, and not directly to him or anything like that. Just again, that's all I needed to look at. Just that he was, or he or whoever was drunk, and they gambled on him. It's just one of those stupid situations where somebody deflects onto a player for not getting their bet done. And like I said, bad games are going to happen, and if you bet on it, it's just unfortunate. Move on to the next one. Maybe you'll finally hit the lottery. It is what it is. But yeah, I'll just ending off on that. If you don't want to lose money, just don't gamble on it and don't go after a player just because they had a bad game.
Right, 100%, 100%. And once again, to look at the positive and the silver linings in this, good on Astros ownership for hiring that security, and good on the investigators for discovering the source. And hopefully that will quash this and put it all to bed. And the McCullers family will sleep a little bit more calmly, a little bit more safely tonight. So now of course, it is Tuesday, so we do have some live games going on right now. We actually have a couple of finals already, a couple of quick games, one of which I think everybody aside from Marlins fans is like low key kind of cheering and being happy about this one. But the Rockies winning their second game in a row, beating the Marlins again. That gets them to 11 on the season, which it's kind of funny because we joked, yep, give him the ring, give him the ring, give him the ring already. We kind of joked that they weren't going to make it to 10 wins by the end of May, and lo and behold, they did not. However, 3 days into June, and they're already up to 11. My gosh, they might get to 15 before too long. This is about to get crazy up in here. But no, also, as Alden, as you noted, I'm going to steal this stat from you. Their first series win since September of last year for the Rockies, now officially, as they've won the second game against the Marlins. Also, the Astros beat the Pirates 3-0 despite an 8-inning, 1-run performance from Paul Skeens. I'm sure that's really not making him feel fuzzy and great about staying in Pittsburgh for longer. When you pitch 8 innings, give up 1 run, and lose the game. That didn't happen to an Orioles pitcher in the playoffs or anything. And then also a final, the Cubs put away the Nationals 8-3 in this one. Really solid pitching performance from Chicago's pitcher Horton. And also Michael Bush, 3 for 4 with a triple and a home run. So only a double short of the cycle for him. So those are some of the finals. Current games, we have Yankees leading the Guardians 3-1. Top of the ninth, Devin Williams in to try to secure the save for the Yankees. Phillies, as you mentioned, the Phillies Blue Jays game going on. Phillies now up 8-1 over the Blue Jays in the bottom of the eighth. Looks like the Blue Jays have a man on first. They're going to need a little bit more than one man on first to start the comeback there. But hey, you got to start somewhere. Angels, Red Sox tied at 3 in the top of the 8th. So that one coming down to the wire. Reds are beating the Brewers 4-2. That one in the top of the 9th. 2 outs. So the Reds 1 out away from getting the save there. The Brewers do have a runner on second, though. Diamondbacks continuing to pour it on against the Braves. They are up 8-3 in the top of the 9th. Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte with 2 home runs apiece in this one. So that's great to see. Carroll up to 18 home runs, which I believe ties him for 4th. Or is he still 5th? He's either tied for 4th or just behind 4th place in baseball in home runs now. So great performance, great bounce back for the Diamondbacks there after losing the weekend series. The Rays beating the Rangers 4-0 in the bottom of the 6th. We've got the White Sox beating the Tigers 4-0 as they enter the 7th inning. That would be a very surprising result there in Chicago. Royals beating the Cardinals in a high offensive game, 8-7. That one in the top of the 6th. And then later on tonight, in fact, starting in about 10 minutes, we've got Orioles facing off against the Mariners in Seattle. We've got the Padres and Giants going at it in a battle of NL West teams. We've got the Twins and the Athletics as the Athletics try to snap their massive cold streak. And we've got, of course, the series of the week, you would probably argue, with the Mets facing off against the Dodgers. Bam. Dodgers, rough scheduling, getting the Yankees and the Mets back to back. That's quite a schedule job by the schedule makers there. But in any case, now we are on to our Who's Hot and Who's Not segment as we look through this past week. Alden, take it away, sir. Who is your hot? Who are your hots and who are your nots?
Yeah, for my hot, I'm gonna go with Milwaukee. They've won 8 games in a row, so I got to give them credit where that's due. They were a team where I was skeptical about, and they did kind of start off with getting my prediction pretty good. And I did not think, honestly, and I got to give the whole Central a little bit of credit, or at least the top 3 teams. I didn't think it would be this close a little bit at any point in the season because I knew the Cubs were going to be good this season. St. Louis, I picked them to finish last in the division, and now they are currently second. They are 4 games behind the Cubs, but still they are up there in the wild card. And then you got Milwaukee, who is 1 game behind St. Louis, and they've won 8 in a row so far. And they've been that kind of a balanced team lately. Their run difference compared to runs given up isn't that high or low. So they are involved in a lot of close games, but they have had guys step up when needed to. So, and that's what has led them to 8 wins in a row, and we'll see if they can keep it going. I was going to pick the Phillies for my my not hot team, but they demolished Toronto today, so I'll let it slide with Bryce Harper back. We'll see if they can get a win streak going a little bit more. But I'm gonna go with the Athletics. I know we talked about them not being a good team a little bit more last week, but yeah, since last time we went live, they've been 1-9 their last 10 games. They've lost 7 games in a row. So at this point, and this was a team I was actually excited for. I was excited to see what the A's can do. Obviously, not being in a home, kind of a little bit of a bad headline for the Athletics, but I thought they had good enough talent to at least compete a little bit in their division. But I mean, they're 5 games below the Angels right now. And that is who I originally picked to finish last place in the division. The Angels, on the other hand, they're only 5 games below 500, which is almost identical to teams that I thought would do good this year. So the Athletics, though, on the other hand, they have lost, I think, like you said earlier, like 18 of their last 19 or somewhere along those lines. That is not good baseball, especially after starting the season off a little bit decent. But yeah, and their difference is negative 116. So they do need pitching. They need to find a way to improve that. They've given up a lot of runs. They have offense. They have good enough offense, but it's just the pitching that has cost them in a lot of games. But yeah, for my hot team, I'll go with Milwaukee. For my cold team, I'll go with the Athletics.
Yeah, 2 very fair choices there. Absolutely. So for my hot team, I mean, I'm looking across the league. Obviously, Milwaukee has the longest win streak. Toronto's second. That one looks like it's probably going to come to an end, although they did get 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th, so now it's 8-3. So maybe we're speaking a little bit too soon. But looking at other teams, I mean, the Mets, they've won 4 in a row, 8 of their last 10. Beat the Dodgers last night, so that's always a tough opponent. So the Mets are looking hot. They've reclaimed first place in the National League East over the Phillies, and they continue to gather momentum. The Cubs, 8-2 in their last 10. They've won 2 in a row. They continue to slightly grow their lead in the Central. And Detroit, again, I feel like we still don't talk about Detroit. They've won 7 of 10. Their win percentage, they're almost at 2/3. They're almost at .667 for their win percentage. They continue to impress. They continue to pitch very well, and just do everything great on the diamond. And also, they've grown to a 6.5 game lead in their division. For the Cold team, I'm actually going to go with the Red Sox here. They've lost 7 of 10, but I think the part that makes them colder is how much ground they've lost in the division. Just 10 at the 10 games ago, they were at 500. They were just right there with the Blue Jays. They were ahead of the Tampa Bay Rays. Now they've given up 3 games to the Blue Jays. They've given up 4 games to the Rays. They've given up 4 games to the Yankees. So not only have they dropped the rest of the division, well, minus the Orioles, of course. Even the Orioles, though, are 6-4 in their last 10. And they've lost just relative to the rest of the division. That's what makes them a cold team to me. You mentioned the A's. They're a pretty obvious choice. And I hate to pile on the Diamondbacks, but they have lost 8 out of 10. They lost the weekend series. They've dropped below 500. Definitely not a great place for them to be. Now we are looking ahead to this upcoming weekend. And I did take a quick look at the schedule. There's a few really intriguing matchups when you look ahead to Friday, Saturday, Sunday here. But Alden, I'll let you kick it off. What matchups are you looking forward to this upcoming weekend?
Okay, so I don't know about you, Mike, but when it comes to baseball, especially because it's such an old sport, of course, as far as rivalries go, there's always some good ones, but I always like watching the Red Sox and the Yankees. That's always like, I'm not a fan of either team. Both teams are completely in the 180 of where I live. But every time these two teams face each other, just the history of fights, competitions, we've seen these teams compete many times in the playoffs, this and that. It's kind of funny. At the beginning of the year, I thought both of these teams could maybe compete for the division a little bit, but Boston has not really lived up to expectations this year for me, at least. But every time the Red Sox and the Yankees play, it's always something I pay attention to because of the rivalry and just what they've been through over the last 100 years or so. So the Red Sox and Yankees always competitive, and I think that this could be a really good series to watch. And another one is the Cubs and Tigers. Still don't think Detroit is getting enough credit for having one of the best records in baseball, and the Cubs, who are having a really good season so far. I think that this will be a really good series to watch. Chicago and Detroit, too. I know in baseball they don't have that big of a rivalry, but Chicago and Detroit. So 2 rivalry series that I think are going to be fun to watch as well, especially both teams being at the top of their division so far this season. So Cubs and Tigers and Red Sox and Yankees are 2 series that I would want to watch as well. But there are quite a few good options here. But those are the 2, other than, of course, the Diamondbacks when they play the Reds. Other than that series, those are the 2 series that I'm going to keep my eye on the most.
Yeah, those were 2 of the ones I was eyeing, absolutely. One series I saw that's really intriguing to me is the Dodgers and the Cardinals. I know we've talked about the Cardinals. This was a team that we did not necessarily expect to be that competitive this year, but they have played well above their expectations, or at least our expectations. And the Dodgers, they're still leading that division, yes, but they have been a little hot and cold lately. They've obviously lost 2 in a row now. They're 5-5 in their last 10. So maybe they don't have the most momentum going into the weekend, of course, unless they turn things around against the Mets here. So that could be intriguing to see how St. Louis matches up in that game. The Dodgers do get Yoshinobu Yamamoto in the second game against Eric Feed. So that should be a pretty good pitching matchup. So other than that, yeah, like you mentioned, Chicago and Detroit, the Central Division leaders, that should be a really good matchup. up until maybe about a week ago, I would have been excited about San Francisco and Atlanta, but both teams have gotten really cold, I feel like, over the last week or two. So that that series will be a battle of two teams trying to claw their way out of kind of these slumps that they have found themselves in. Looks like the Braves do. There should be some good pitching in this. The Braves do have Strider going on Sunday. Looking at the Friday matchup, we've got Schwellenbach versus Hayden Birdsong, and then Logan Webb going for the Giants on Saturday. So both teams putting some of their best pitchers out for this one. And then kind of along the same line, sarcastically, as the Orioles White Sox game this past weekend, we get Orioles Athletics this upcoming weekend. So, we had the two worst teams by record in the American League. And now we'll have two of the three worst teams by record in the American League squaring off. But hey, the Orioles swept the White Sox, so maybe if they get a little bit of momentum going, they can get another series win, and maybe that'll really help them kind of get themselves back on track as we get towards the trade deadline and the All-Star break, which is only 5 weeks away. Amazingly, the All-Star break is. I was surprised, or 5 or 6. I think 6 weeks away, 6 weeks from the All-Star break. Before we take our break, we are going to jump into the minor league spotlight. Alden, I believe you mentioned earlier in the week who you were going to talk about for the Royals. I believe we discussed this, maybe not, but take it away. Who is your minor league spotlight?
Well, yeah, I talked about Caglione last week, actually, and fast forward less than a week later, he's making, or actually exactly a week later, he's making his MLB debut today for the Royals. So I guess they heard my analysis on that and called him up and took my advice. So, but yeah, so for this episode, I'm gonna go with Sebastian Walcott for the Rangers organization. I took a little bit of a look at Double-A so far this season. And he's gone from kind of like a long shot a little bit, especially at the shortstop position. He's kind of gone from that to a little bit like a little bit of a long-term defender at the position of shortstop a little bit. And we see, like, with the big athletic infielders that the Rangers have with Josh Young and Corey Seager and of course Jake Berger at first. So he has the most power of other than Seager, he has some pretty good power at the shortstop position. It is going to be hard to throw him into the rotation when he eventually does get called up because he is only 19 years old and he's in Double-A right now. So he probably won't make his debut at all this season or maybe even next year. But with excuse me. So, but overall in his Double-A stats, so far 8 home runs, 27 RBIs in Double-A. For a 19-year-old as well. So I think that, and with I know his batting average isn't the best. He's normally, from what I've seen, one of those guys that it's either a home, kind of like Kyle Schwarber, it's either a home run or it's an out to a certain degree. Eventually he'll get a ball occasionally in between the gap. But so overall, so far, despite him being a long shot away from making his MLB debut, Sebastian Walcott is a shortstop who I think can really take over when or if, Corey Seager's contract is up full term or whatever, this and that. But it would be a good option for the Rangers to occasionally throw him into the batting lineup when he does get the call up, which may be next year, the following. But I think that the Rangers could really use him right now because they lack some decent offense despite spending a bunch of money on it this season. But yeah, I'll go with Sebastian Walcott for the Rangers, who I think could be a really good shortstop for the Rangers in the future.
Great pick there for sure. Sounds like he's really rolling, and the Rangers, like we've discussed on and off this season, and any offensive help will certainly benefit that lineup for that team. I'm keeping it local, and I'm going to a guy who is a youngin. He just turned 21 at the end of April, but he is a guy that I think has Nats fans excited, and he's somebody who should be on the entirety of the baseball radar as he works his way through the minors, and that's starting pitcher Travis Sakura, a guy who I believe they drafted in the 3rd round of the draft a couple years ago, and so far he has done nothing but impress in his minor league debut. And I bring him up because on the 23rd, so about a week and a half ago, he was promoted from the single A affiliate from Fredericksburg up to high A Wilmington. And he's pitched 2 games for high A Wilmington. He pitched 4 innings, gave up 1 hit and 1 walk, and then 4 innings and gave up 1 hit and 1 walk. No runs, 8 innings, a .5 whip and a 0 ERA. So far, it's a small sample size this year, but in 19 innings across low A and high A, he has a .47 ERA. He's only given up 1 run, and he has 38 strikeouts in 19 innings. So this is a guy, he continues to impress. He's got the build. He's 6'6", 235, so he's a big kid. He's got the durability. Obviously, you're going to want to make sure that durability holds up as he gets higher and he maintains the control. But this is a kid who has DC fans excited and probably should start to be on the radar of other baseball teams as a guy to be on the watch. Probably not this year, probably not next year unless he really gets on a tear. But I would say by 2027, this is somebody who could be not only in the Nationals rotation, but possibly one of the headliners of a group that could include the likes of, will include the likes of Mackenzie Gore, of Jake Irving, of Cade Cavalli, DJ Hers, some of these names, and it's shaping up to be a really good group. It makes me not necessarily married to the Nationals taking a pitcher high in the draft as well. We're going to go ahead and take our break. When we come back, we're jumping down to the college ranks as things are getting really exciting for both softball and baseball here. Do not go away. You're listening to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
welcome back to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We are down to the college ranks, and we are down to the final matchup of the season in college softball. It is the Women's College World Series final, and we have our matchup set. It is an intra-state matchup between Texas and Texas Tech. The Texas Longhorns came into the tournament as the 6th overall seed, and they just kind of swept their way through to they didn't face a ton of resistance in their regional or their super regional, and they handled business in the World Series group play to get to the final. Meanwhile, Texas Tech, I believe, still has not lost a game in the College World Series in the whole tournament, as they went undefeated in regional and super regional play, defeating Florida State, sadly. But yeah, and then they took care of business against the teams, including the vaunted University of Oklahoma Sooners, who were the third team, the last team eliminated before this matchup, which unfortunately means that their four-year run ends at 4. They will not get that 5th consecutive national championship. But hey, I mean, look, it says a lot about the success of a team when they finish 3rd basically and everybody's upset. Like, that's kind of the standard that they've been put up to lately. But Alden, what are your thoughts on this matchup? And I'll give you a chance. I know you had Oklahoma winning it all, but with the renewed series, I'll give you a chance to update your selection between these two teams.
Yeah, I'm definitely surprised by this finals matchup. I didn't think either team would get there, but yeah, Texas Tech, who came in at number 12, has really shocked a lot of people, including myself. And yes, I did pick Oklahoma to win for the 5th year in a row, but can't win them all. I guess that's basically the summary of Oklahoma. They after winning the last 4, but Texas Tech, I think I really got to give it to their pitching, because in all the games that they won in the second bracket, they didn't score more than 3 runs. Their offense, they scored when they needed to, but their pitching really is what won them games. And they shut out Ole Miss. They beat UCLA. They held them to 1, and then they held Oklahoma at 2 runs, and they won in a close one, 3-2. So I think that's going to continue to be the deciding factor for Texas Tech in this finals game. But Texas, on the other hand, kind of similar. They pitched 2 shutouts in the first bracket, and then they won 4-2 against Oklahoma on the other side. So in all these games right here, it's kind of hard to pick a winner after everything that we've seen a little bit. But until they lose a game, I think I have to go with Texas Tech until they lose a game and prove me wrong. I think the undefeated team, you should probably go for them, especially beating a team who literally everybody thought was going to win, a team that people were questioning, why are they ranked 2nd or ranked 3rd, this and that, and had won the 4 previous College World Series for softball. So I think I'm going to go with Texas Tech in this game, but would not shock me at all if Texas ended up winning it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And both of these teams beating the vaunted Oklahoma to get here just shows the quality of both programs. It's really interesting when you look at the numbers for both of these squads. Texas Tech, you mentioned their pitching, and that is the strength of this team. They're 2nd in all of college softball in ERA for the season, and they leaned on that to get here. Texas, however, on the other side, typically an offensive juggernaut this year. They're 2nd in batting average, 5th in on-base percentage, one of the top teams in slugging. I also found it a little bit ironic, a little bit funny that the Texas and Texas Tech make the championship when Texas A&M was, I guess, somewhat controversial given the number 1 seed, controversially over Oklahoma, and they were eliminated in the regional. So it's interesting that they get eliminated. Texas A&M does as the 1 seed, and then 2 of their interstate rivals make the finals. I picked Texas last week on the show, and since Texas made the final, I think I got to stick with them and have them rolling all the way to the finish. But like you said, if Texas Tech were to take this. I think that's an absolute valid thought. You can't necessarily bet against the team that hasn't lost a game yet in the tournament. But it's going to be a great series, great matchup. I think there might be a little bit of a heated matchup as well, with both of these teams being from Texas. But we'll see. But I think it will be really good. And shout out to, of course, Angela, host of the Tornado Takeover, who was not happy at all with this result when Oklahoma got eliminated and having to see Texas and Texas Tech in the championship. But it is what it is. You can't say it's not happening. Now moving on to college baseball, where the regionals have wrapped up, and we are on to the super regionals. Some interesting upsets here with with the super regionals, namely the top two seeds, Vanderbilt and Texas, going back to the Longhorns again, being eliminated in regional play. We also saw several other ranked teams get knocked out. Looks like Oregon got knocked out by Arizona. There we go. And we also had Georgia eliminated by Duke, and Ole Miss knocked out by Murray State. So lots of upsets going here. The storyline to me of the regionals was the lack of performance from the SEC, who had 13 teams invited with eight eight regional hosts, and 6 of the top 7, and yet only 4 SEC teams actually made it to the super regionals. So I thought that was an interesting headline. But Alden, looking ahead to the supers, the 8 winners of which go on to the Baseball World Series, what matchups are you looking forward to?
Okay, so yeah, obviously I'm gonna stay local for the Chapel Hill one between UNC and Arizona, because Arizona, and this is what really got them to the brackets, is their ability to score runs. Their pitching does show up when needed, but in the previous bracket they scored 14 runs in 2 different games. One of them was a shutout, and then the other one wasn't even close. They still gave up 4 runs, but 14 runs and dominating them. And then of course, when you look at UNC, their pitching is somewhat what got them. Of course, in the necessary game against Oklahoma, they put up 14 runs as well. So it's mainly going to be whoever blinks first on offense for this UNC and U of A bracket right here. And also, of course, Florida State and Oregon State. Oregon State, obviously they won the last one. They shut out Southern Cal. And they dominated them in the last 2 games as well to move on. And then looking at Florida State as well, pitching wise, looked pretty good. Jamie Arnold had a pretty good game, and then they took him out. And then basically that just meant, yeah, they're expecting him to play again in the next round. So the pitcher who I normally talk about, who I think is going to get drafted within the top 5 here pretty soon. So I think that this is going to also be about pitching as well. Whichever team blinks first on offense, that's the team that's going to move on, because we've seen a lot of offense, not just in the 2 series I named, but in a lot of them as well. There are a couple series where I'm kind of shocked to see some of these teams in it, like Duke and Murray State. Like, this will be an interesting one right here. Like both teams, they I really did like the Murray State game, where it was 12-11 when they beat Ole Miss. That was a really close game, and then whoever was the better offense needed to be better to win it, moved on, and it was Murray State. So this Duke and Murray State one, I think this one is probably one of the toughest ones to call who's going to win right here. And then, of course, you got other teams that weren't ranked coming in, like Miami and Louisville. We'll see what happens there as well. But overall, I think that the best series in this is going to be Florida State and Oregon State, and then I think UNC and Arizona can probably go to the full extent right here of 3 games.
Yeah, absolutely. You stole mine. You had to know I was trying to want to talk about Florida State, man. No, I'm just kidding. No, to me, yes, that is going to be a very good series. And as a Seminole fan, I was really hoping for USC to pull off the upset over Oregon State, because I did not want to face that Beavers team with that powerhouse offense they have. Not only with Ava Arquette, who's going to be a future first-round pick in the upcoming draft, but several other players up and down that lineup having phenomenal seasons as well. I am very curious about Auburn and Coastal Carolina. Auburn, obviously, very good team, had a great season, one of the top seeds. Really, they made it through their regional. They did not lose a game. They swept right through it. Pretty easy, and only one, and no game was closer than 3 runs, so not really challenged as well. But Coastal Carolina, this was a team that we talked about during the season. You know, they had great records. They have a great winning streak now up to 21 games after winning their host region. Got a host region, great. But we were like, I think the question begged, what happens when they face consistent high-end opposition? They managed to dodge Florida, which is I thought that was the matchup I really wanted to see, was them go up against Florida. But Eastern Carolina took care of the Gators for them, and then Coastal Carolina took care of Eastern Carolina. So they managed to breeze through. Kind of a close game against Eastern Carolina, winning 1-0. But you know, you gotta wonder, 21 game win streak. This is a team that, you know, had a great season record wise, but against slightly lower competition than some of these other teams faced. You gotta wonder where that matchup goes. And also, not an unranked matchup because UCLA was ranked, but the 15 seed getting University of Texas San Antonio, who eliminated Texas outright in the bracket and actually beat Texas twice to get the job done. UCLA, obviously a ranked team, they went through their bracket. Also was not particularly challenged, unfortunately, by Arizona State, who was unable to defeat them, and then UC Irvine. But you got to wonder if this UTSA team that just took it to Texas is riding an all-time confidence wave and bringing that to Los Angeles with a shot to go to the World Series. So, yeah, I like most of these matchups. I think they're going to be good. They're going to be fun, entertaining. And I also like the prospect of potentially up to 4 ACC teams making it to the College World Series. They're guaranteed one because Miami and Louisville play. So they're guaranteed one. But then Florida State, UNC, and Duke, I think, all have very real chances of getting there as well. Now we have made it to Around the Diamond, where we just talk about whatever baseball topic is burgeoning on our mind this evening. So, Alden, I'll let you take it away. What is your Around the Diamond topic?
So I kind of wanted to talk about how the MLB and their fans are kind of viewing certain teams up to this point regarding we're only 60 games into the season, which, yes, that is a lot of games still, but we're not even halfway through yet. And there's a lot of people who are already making rumors or assumptions of who is going to be buyers at the trade deadline and who is going to be sellers. And I think that the A's are one of the highest teams that you can think of regarding sellers, because at this point they're 23-38. They have had a horrendous stretch recently, and the constant name that people are saying the A's could look at trading is their closer, Mason Miller. And there are a lot of teams out there that could use bullpen pitching. Yeah, I'm a fan of one of them. So yeah, if the Diamondbacks can do something about that, then be my guest. But there's also a lot of pitchers that they could be willing to give up to, like Jeffrey Springs, maybe right-hander Tyler Ferguson, who's actually having one of their only pitchers who's actually having a good season so far. They're saying that your Orioles could actually be sellers at the deadline as well, not for their young players, obviously, but as a solid first year, though, from Sugano. He's rumored to be a guy that the Orioles can look into moving with the 3.20 ERA so far this season. And
3.18 after his scoreless first inning tonight, by the way.
Oh, so going down even more now. But they could also, they're saying that they could shop some of their first base and DH power bats like Mountcastle or Ryan O'Hearn if they can get the right offer for it as well. But there's a lot of options that teams that are buying could really go after. The Diamondbacks are actually one of the teams listed on here too. After the Corbin Burns injury, they could look to deal guys like veteran relievers or veteran pitchers like Zach Gallen, who's actually on a contract year and he has an ERA over 5. They could look to deal him a little bit. Same thing with Merrill Kelly, who's actually having a pretty good year, but he is getting up there in age. And he is also on a contract year, so maybe they can look at trading him as well. Maybe Josh Naylor, too, who's having a good year, but is also on a contract year. And if anyone knows the Diamondbacks, they are not really good at handing out money like that, minus the exception of Corbin Burns. But other than that, yeah, but there's a lot of teams on here that could be sellers. The Nationals are also on here with Soroka, Trevor Williams, Kyle Finnegan, maybe. So I thought that these articles right here where teams are rumored to be sellers at the deadline. Obviously, Rockies and White Sox, the 2 worst teams, are on here as well. The Pirates are also on here. Other than Paul Skeens, the Pirates could look at pretty much trading anybody they can. But yeah, I just we're not really that close to the trade deadline, and I like how people are already making assumptions about who's going to be sellers or buyers, because there's a lot of teams that are rumored to be sellers at the deadline, and they could literally turn it around within a short span and become contenders again, because that's how baseball is sometimes. But yeah, buyers or sellers at the trade deadline. I thought that they brought up some interesting points regarding the teams on who could be involved in those categories.
Yeah, 100%. Don't love seeing Ryan O'Hearn on the trade rumors, but I get it at the same time. I understand that he would be a coveted piece. So Cedric Mullins, same, would kind of break my heart if he went. But, anybody looking for a good glove in center field who can occasionally provide some power to the lineup, he would definitely be an appealing option. I am going to go over to Seattle, ironically enough, as the Orioles are playing the Mariners this evening, and I am going to highlight Cal Raleigh, their catcher, who is having an absolutely phenomenal season. And I want to highlight him for one particular reason. So back in 2021, Kansas City Royals catcher Salvador Perez set the record for most home runs in a single season by a catcher, pure catcher, I'm guessing, with 46. So the 46 is the single season catcher home run record. Cal, Mr. Raleigh, is halfway to that. He has 23 home runs to lead all of Major League Baseball, and we are 58 games into the season. We have over 100 games left, and he is halfway to the record. And I gotta think that this is one of those ones where if you're looking at records to fall, records to be broken, this one has got to be on the radar for most people. I believe somebody did the math. He's on pace for 65 if he were to keep that rate going. So yeah, phenomenal season by Cal Raleigh. It breaks my heart to say that a catcher not named Adley Rutschman is the best catcher in the American League and all of baseball. But I definitely think, especially given the season that Rutschman's having, that Raleigh has him supplanted. And we'll see. We'll see as the season progresses if Raleigh can keep up this pace, or heck, even if he slows down a little bit. He's got 104 games to hit 24 more home runs to break the record. So he can slow down a little bit and still get the job done. That will do it for tonight's show. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Oh, Brian Francione jumped in a little bit later. Says he'll be talking about Yankees, Red Sox. Of course, Brian's the host of our Boston show, and Ricky, normally our third co-host. Hopefully we'll get him back next week. Is the host of our New York show. So that will be a fun debate, fun discussion between those two. And of course, shout out to Ralph Felice who jumped in. Thank you to everybody who listened live or is listening later on in the week. It is all greatly appreciated. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Jerky that's on a whole nother planet. Go to planetjerky.net to get yours today. Also, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, custom wax stamps. Perfect for any special occasion, so check them out on Instagram at @StealTheDeal_wax stamps. Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great but promotes and donates to mental health research. So head on over to their website, use code IESR to get 50% off of your gym wear purchase today. Of course, if you have not done so already, follow the network on all social media on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at IE Sports Radio. Of course, go to the website, iesportsradio.com. There you'll find our blog, our Hall of Fame, our merchandise, our show pages, and much more. And if you're a fan of our show, please follow us on X. You can follow the show page at BP Bulletin _IESR. You can follow Alden at the AZTRL, talking all things Arizona sports. Sometimes happy, sometimes sad. Depends on the day. Follow yours truly at IESR _DMV, talking all things DMV sports. Mostly sad, mostly depressing. And then follow Ricky at Rickinator555. He's going to be your New York connection. He's probably pretty happy right now with the Mets and the Yankees. We will be back next week to talk more baseball. We will have a national champion in college softball, so we'll get to offer up some congratulations there. I think we'll be to the Baseball World Series as well, so we'll be talking that. And of course, baseball, there's tons more of the MLB to go, more games to be played, more series to be won. And hey, maybe the Rockies will be up to 12 or 13 wins by the time we go live next week. Who knows? Anything's possible at this point. They've won 2 in a row. Once again, this has been Alden and Mike Patt for the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.